Hello there, Mr. Sutton here, bringing you the IM324 Part 1 homework solutions on factoring advanced trinomials. To factor this trinomial, I'm first going to check to see if I have any common factors that I can take out. And I have a 3 next to the x squared, but none of these other things are divisible by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and try to guess and check my way out of this one. I'm going to pick two possible factors of this, multiply them, and see if the middle terms add up to 20x. So thinking about factors of 3x squared, I've got 3x and x, and that's about it. Factors of 7, I've got a 1 and a 7, and they could either be positive or negative. So let me start with 3x plus 1 as one of my two binomials here. And if that's one of them, to get a 3x squared, I'd have to have an x in the other parentheses. And to multiply to get a negative 7, I would have to have a negative 7 there as well. So x minus 7. Let's multiply out the outers and the inners now to see what we get. So 3x times negative 7, that's negative 21x. And 1 times x is a positive x. Negative 21x plus x adds up to negative 20x. That's close to what I wanted up here, but I need a positive 20, not a negative 20. So if I switch the signs in these two parentheses, that should reverse everything and give me a positive 20x. But let me just try it out. So let's say I have 3x minus 1 instead of plus 1, and x plus 7. Multiplying that out, we have 3x times 7, that's now positive 21x. Negative 1 times x is minus x. And then that all adds up to 20x, which confirms what I got in the middle in the beginning here. So that means that my answer is going to be 3x minus 1 and x plus 7 for my factors.
For this problem, we see that we have an a value, negative 10, that is not 1. Therefore, we have to try to take out a common factor if we can. Is there a common factor we can take out from all these terms? Well, it looks like these are all divisible by 10. And negative 10 would be a good thing to go with, because if I can take out a negative, that makes factoring whatever's left inside that much easier. So let me take a negative 10 out from everything. So we have then x squared, and this will be minus 4x, and then 320 becomes minus 32. And I see that the expression inside is much easier to factor. If you just look at the stuff inside, we have an a value now of 1 next to that x squared. So we can go back to our earlier shortcut of just asking for factors of negative 32 that add up to negative 4. So we've got 1 and 32, can't do that. 2 and 16 is not going to work. 4 and 8 could work if we have positive 4 and negative 8. So I've got my negative 10 still. I have an x plus 4, and I have an x minus 8 as my three factors. On this problem, I have an a value that's not 1, so let me start by trying to take out a common factor. It looks like these are all divisible by 2, so let me factor a 2 out of that. Leaves me with x squared plus 22x plus 120. And so now to factor the stuff inside, I'm going to need factors of 120 that add up to 22. So let's see, we've got 1 and 120, that doesn't work. 2 and 60 doesn't work. 3 and 40 doesn't work, although we're getting closer. 4 and 30, that gives us 34, still no good. 5 and 24 is also not going to work. How about 6 and 20? Nope, that's not working either. That adds up to 26. Well, what else is there? We've got, let's see here, maybe 8 goes into it. Does 8 go into that? I think it does. I think it's 8 and 15 is the other piece of that, but that doesn't add up to 22. It adds up to 23, so that's pretty close. How about after 8? Well, it's not divisible by 9 because the digits don't add up to 9. 10 and 12 works. 10 plus 12 is 22, so I think those are our factors. So we have an x plus 10, an x plus 12, and don't forget to bring down that 2 as well. It doesn't just go away.
I'm trying to factor this trinomial now. We don't have just a regular 1 next to the x squared, so I have to either try to take out a common factor or do something a little bit more advanced. Looking at common factors, I can take a 3 out of my first term and my last term. Unfortunately, 28 is not divisible by 3, so I can't factor a 3 out of this whole thing. What I can do instead, though, is try and guess and check. So let me break this up into two parentheses and multiply them together and see what happens. So I need factors of 3x squared for my x term in the parentheses. So that would be a 3x and an x. There's really no other way to slice it. Now 9 has a few possible factors. We have 1 times 9 and 3 times 3. Let me start with 1 though. Let me start with a 3x plus 1 for one of my factors. And then to get the first and the last term here, I would need an x for my next parentheses. And to get a 9 out of 1, I would also need a 9 over here in this other parentheses. So that gives me 3x squared and 9, just like I should have. But now let me multiply out the outers and the inners to see if I get this 28x in the middle. 3x times 9 is 27x. 1 times x is 1x. Adding those together, I do get 28x. So that confirms that this is actually the answer. I guessed correctly on the first try. Woohoo! So that's going to be 3x plus 1, x plus 9 for my final answer.
For this problem, we're trying to factor this trinomial. So let's first check to see if there's a common factor that we can take out since we don't have an a value of 1 right away. So it looks like, let's see here, 3, 18, and 120 are all divisible by 3. So if I factor a 3 out of that, I've got x squared minus, this becomes 6x, and then 120 divided by 3 is 40, so minus 40. And now I actually do have the easier case with an a value of 1 in there. So now I just need numbers that multiply to negative 40 and add up to negative 6. So let's see here, we've got 1 and 40, no, 2 and 20, 4 and 10. 4 and 10 could work if we have positive 4 and negative 10. So we've got a 3 here, we've got an x plus 4, and we have an x minus 10 to go there as well.
For this one, I need to factor this trinomial, and I see here that if I try to take out common factors, that's not going to work out. We have a 2 that I could take out of the x squared, but then nothing else is even an even number. So we can't factor anything out here. Instead, I'm going to try splitting this up into two parentheses and see if I can guess and check the answer. So for one of my parentheses, I've got to have a 2x, and in the other one I've got to have an x. That's the only way I can get a 2x squared by multiplying. Also, I need a 1 and a 3 to get this 3 here. Now, thinking about the signs of both of these things, I notice that we have multiplication that gives us a positive, and when I add stuff up, it ends up being negative. That suggests that both of my signs have to be negative. A negative times a negative gives me a positive. A negative plus a negative gives me a negative. So I'm going to try 2x minus 1 in my first parentheses. And that means my second parentheses, to get 2x squared and positive 3, I would have to have an x and a negative 3 over there. Let me multiply out my outers and inners and see if I get negative 5x in the middle. 2x times negative 3, that's negative 6x. Negative 1 times x is negative x, and that adds up to negative 7x, not negative 5x. So I've got to try a different combination. The only thing I can really switch up here is I could switch where the 1 and the 3 are. That's the only other possibility, assuming both of these things are negative. So let me try 2x minus 3 times x minus 1. Very similar, but just a little change that might make a difference. So 2x times negative 1, that's negative 2x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 2x minus 3x is negative 5x, which is what we have in the middle. So that means that this second option here, my second guess was actually correct, and 2x minus 3, x minus 1 is my answer.
For this problem, we have an a value that's not 1. So let's first check to see if there are common factors we can take out. So we've got coefficients of negative 5, negative 55, and negative 140. Those are all divisible by 5, and I might as well take out a negative while I'm at it. So if I take out a negative 5, that leaves me with 1x squared. This will be a positive 11x. And then you could use a calculator if you wanted to. I happen to know that 140 divided by 5 is going to be, this will be positive 28. So now, looking inside the parentheses here, I see that inside the parentheses, I do have an a value of 1 next to that x squared. So for factoring the stuff inside, I just need factors of 28 that add up to 11. And I know that they will both be positive because they multiply to a positive and add up to a positive. So let's see, 1 and 28 is not going to add up to 11. We have 2 and 14, that doesn't work. 4 and 7 works. So I'll split this up into x plus 4 and x plus 7. And don't forget to bring down that negative 5 at the end.